This is The Storied Outdoors, a podcast somewhere between Lewis and Tolkien and Lewis and Clark, finding clarity in the stories we tell and the adventures that shape us. Welcome to The Storied Outdoors. My name is Brad Hill, and I'm joined, as always, by my good friend and co-host, Bryan Gill. And we are wrapping up Season 7, Bryan. I can't believe it. And actually, man, we got kind of busy as the seasons progress, and we haven't talked as much as we normally talked. And man, I'm just thankful for just an opportunity to see you. We haven't been on FaceTime or anything in a while, so it's good to see you, man.
I know. I was trying to think when's the last time we actually recorded an episode over Zoom. I mean, we've that's part of this whole season. We had a lot of things that were face to face, and
I know
it was like,
and we did a lot of them a long time ago.
I know they were. That's what I'm saying. They're all like preloaded. Good grief!
Yeah, so it's been a minute since we've been on, so it's great to see you, man.
Yeah, you too, pal. It's been a great season. You know, it's so funny. You know, what's that Steve Martin movie where he goes to the end of his driveway and like, I've never been this far from home, and he takes another step. I've never been this far from home. You know, yeah. That's how I think every season wrap up. We're like, yeah, I can't believe we made it this far. You know,
what's to bring it on into the old Fellowship of the Ring. Old Sam, what's Sam say? If I take one more step, I'll be further from home than I've ever been.
That's exactly how I am with every episode that we do. It's funny. You know, we keep surprising ourselves with, you know, we had a lot of firsts this season. Yeah. You know, it was a kind of a big season, like on a low key big season. You know, we had our 100th episode. We had 100
episodes, Bryan. I can't believe we made it to 100. That's a lot of recording.
It's you know, in the spirit of Christmas, here we are right here in December. Chevy Chase said, if I woke up tomorrow with my head sewn to the carpet, I wouldn't be more surprised than I am right now.
Oh man, that's maybe my favorite quote of that movie.
Yeah, are you serious, Clark?
Yeah, I know it.
Those are my two favorites. So yeah, that's kind of the way I am about this season. It's like, gosh, absolutely, man, we just keep getting blessed by the people that agree to talk to us. Well, and we get to share their stories. Also, you know, every time I'm like, all right, man, who are we going to talk to now? I mean, people, you know, stories keep coming, you know, keep popping up, and interesting, you know, people and relationships built and friendships made, you know, even through this process. I mean, I think about it, even today, I texted with Hugh today. I would never have known Hugh Cheek outside of doing this podcast, but now he's become a friend, and I'm just so thankful for the people that we have met through these 100 episodes and 7 seasons of conversations and connection. Guys like Wade Blevins and the Sam's One Bug crew of people that are a part of the Sam's One Bug that comes along with that whole community that he's started up there, you know. And they've all become friends, and man, what a gift, and what a glorious little community we get to be a part of. No, man, you couldn't have said it better. You know, it's a community. It's people that, you know, you don't really hear their stories out in mainstream media, but everybody that we've talked to has a very unique and important story, and we're just thankful to be able to share it. Yeah, and all of them have in some ways, obviously, we talk about it, and that's part of our podcast, and it's cool to see it doing what we say, and that's finding clarity in the stories we tell and the adventures that shape us. Each of these conversations have shaped us, and have, you know, I feel like a better person for having had these conversations with people, the more that I think about it and reflect on this past season in particular. Yeah, I think that this episode we're going to talk about this season, this past, or some of our favorite moments. But Brad and I have 2 big announcements that we want to share with you all. Brad's got something on that he wants to share that's huge. I've got something that I want to share that's huge. We've been working on these 2 things this whole year, and
but we're not going to share it yet. We're going to talk about the season, some of our favorite moments.
That's right. That'll be for the end. That'll be
That'll
for
be
the
for
end.
then. So you got to hang around.
Yeah, but for now, looking back on season 7, Brian, what's a standout? Maybe a couple of standouts from one of the episodes or a couple of the episodes for you.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it a little bit earlier in this episode how we did so many face-to-face interviews.
Mm-hmm.
And that, man, you and I don't get to do that a lot. We're
No.
doing a lot of these through Zoom. Um, and looking back, we were able to sit down with Amos Benjamin in a
Yeah.
two-parter, which was was phenomenal. I mean,
Woo.
just kind
Yeah.
of you went through all of the emotions in those two episodes. I mean,
All the fields, man.
all the feels. What an amazing story. I actually had an opportunity to go with Amos to an event at Lockheed Martin in Atlanta, and he
Oh
was the
man.
speaker for Veterans Day.
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
dude, it was incredible. They fed us. We got to meet so many veterans, so many people who work for Lockheed Martin are veterans, and just
Did you guys get to tour, do any tour or anything like
we
that?
didn't get to tour, but Shaggy, the vice president there,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I I don't even know if I should say this, but
Probably should.
dude, so he was so kind. I mean, he is just an awesome guy. I mean, he's a Air Force veteran, and ended up inviting us to come see where the C-130s are made, see the production of those. We haven't done that at this point, but as I was leaving, we have these coins that say thank you for your service, and it's got an emblem of Sanford University on it. And I was gonna give him one, and I tapped him on his shoulder, and I said, "Hey, uh, Scooby, would and then I thought, oh my gosh, I
I
just called
called him
Shaggy
Scoob.
Scooby."
Scoob.
And I was sitting there thinking, what an idiot. Oh
Idiot.
my gosh. Here's this, like true American hero. And like his name is Shaggy, and like I totally just botched it. And then he was so kind and generous. He's like, "Thank you, Brian." And like he had just met me like an hour
Brian.
earlier. And then like he was just he remembered my name. I felt like an idiot, complete idiot by calling him the wrong name. And
Come on, man. Honest mistake. Let's
I
be
know.
real.
I mean, if we're going, I mean, Shaggy's not a name
Shaggy.
that you kind of have all the time. It's not one of those. This wasn't like a normal name, but man,
Yeah.
I really messed that one up.
Dang it, Bobby.
Dang it, Bob. But that was an awesome opportunity to go there with Amos, and
Absolutely.
but then we also recorded an episode with Craig Haney.
Well,
With
yeah. Well, like we left like Amos's house. We packed up
Yep.
and drove straight to Craig's house, like back to back, which was
Yeah.
it was amazing. So we left this like long conversation with Amos with all these emotions. Like it was such a heavy but rich conversation.
Yeah.
And then we drove to Craig's house to have a whole nother conversation. It was quite a day, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so we're sitting there. I mean, and we hadn't eaten lunch, and so we're just drained mentally, physically,
Yeah.
emotionally, and
Oh yeah.
man, and then just get to talk with Craig and just perk right back up.
I
And I
know,
mean,
man.
just listen to his stories, and I don't know. And then we get to go. Was it the next day?
Yeah.
We go
Oh yeah.
down on fishing on the Tallapoosa,
That's right.
and with Murph and Roel, and holy cow, we get to talk about being a veteran. We get to talk about all of the ways that they're giving back, and the amazing things that they're
Yeah.
doing. We had a great time fishing.
We got tired from fishing,
Got
right?
tired from fishing. I mean, yeah, not
That
tired
was a
of fishing.
yeah. There's a big
Big
difference there.
difference.
What a great trip. What a great memory. You say all that. I think I feel like a better person and a better American for having sat and heard Amos's story and Roel and Murph's story and their experience, not only of serving, but as they transitioned out of serving into civilian life, the difficulty that those guys face.
Mm.
I don't think that was something I'd really, really considered. And this was really, I think the most glaring thing was on a practical level, not on like these guys were in battle, because we didn't even really get into that with Roel. I mean, Roel's seen and done an awful lot as a ranger on the battlefield, but we really talked about sort of that practical aspect of, for 21 years, he didn't have to pick out his clothes. Like, he knew his
Mm,
schedule. He knew what time breakfast was.
yeah.
Like, his life was planned out for him. His name is on his chest. His rank is right there on his uniform, and there's his identity. Here's who he is. Here's what he's accomplished. When you walk into a room, you know what you expect of others, and you know what they expect of you. And then all of a sudden, all of that's gone, and you're put on like your civilian clothes, and you walk into a room, and no one knows any of that. And
Mm,
I'd never really considered the ramifications and the difficulty of that kind of transition, from that life. And those guys do it all the time.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it was so interesting to have Amos's conversation and then Murph and Roel,
Yeah,
and there were so many similarities.
right.
I mean, and in talking about that, what is my purpose now that I'm not in the military? I'm retired now. My purpose is no longer, okay, here's your mission, go accomplish that mission.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so many times, tragically, that does not end well for veterans. And so having those guys just get real transparent with us and talk about that um was just a blessing, man. And like you said, it made you proud to be an American, made you proud to know these guys and to know the amazing things that they're doing, the amount of service work that they are continuing to do and to
Oh
to
yeah,
make people's lives better is just off the charts.
for sure. I mean, but it's hard. When you say let's pick a favorite thing, it's pretty hard not to think about episode 100, right?
Man, episode 100 was live on location with Jimbo Metter.
Gosh, man, I couldn't believe we got to do it the first time,
Right.
but the fact that he was willing to sit down a second time is just as surprising, and I'm filled with just as much gratitude for the second time, maybe more, for the second time to sit down with him as I am the first.
Yeah. I mean, and it was his idea. I mean, that
Yeah,
was that was the fun part that he wanted to talk about his fishing buddy.
yeah.
Uh
Uh, I mean, just my old
just
pal
just just my
Jimmy
old
Buffett.
pal Jimmy Buffett,
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
and by
that's
the
what was
way,
funny, because from the first episode, right?
yeah.
The first time, episode 84 with Jimbo Metter, we asked him, we're like, who's your favorite, like, person you've got? And he's like, well,
Hmm.
I don't want to single anybody out. And then I was like, okay. Who's your favorite famous person? He's like, well, I kind of hate to answer that too.
Yeah, I'd rather not say.
I'd rather not say. And then we weren't recording, and we were wrapping everything up. I was like, okay, we're not recording now. Like, who's your favorite famous person? Because I was like, I know he's guided some cool people.
Yeah.
Of course, in this episode 100, he's telling stories about Mr. Perkins, the owner of Orvis, and Tom McGuane, right? The
Yeah.
author, Tom McGuane. And then but he said his favorite was Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah.
Me and you looked at each other like, what?
Yeah. Man, and there was talk about, hey, let's see if we can't get Jimmy on there and Jimbo at the same time. Neither one of us knew that
Right.
that Jimmy was sick. And
Yeah.
man, when Jimmy passed, that was, you reached out to Jimbo and was just telling, sending your condolences and all that, and just, I felt like it was a good time for Jimbo to talk about his buddy,
Yeah.
talk about his fishing buddy.
Yeah.
So
It was really, really, I mean,
yeah,
a genuine treat for him to share his stories. And we got to be down there in his office at his house. And man, it was such a rich and just some funny stories
man, this was a
about.
laugh out loud conversation. I mean, there was a couple of times I was just tickled. I
We
mean,
were just straight up tickled, man. He was too. That's what made it good, because he was having such a good time. And so, man, what a
yeah,
joy. What a great memory. I'll certainly never forget.
yeah. And we had
Love
a
that. Love that guy.
we had a a third person in the room, or the
We
fourth
did.
person in the room with us, George Constantine. Man, we were so thankful that he was down there to kind of document some of this conversation. And
Took some great photos and for us, and got some video.
yep,
And George works with, man. I hope we get to talk to Dorsal, Dorsal Films or whatever on an episode. Those guys do some cool stuff, and they tell some great stories. And because they've done, the red eye bass, the slam,
yep,
the
the
slam
slam
that
that saves.
saves. What a great little film, and just enjoyed that story with Mary Beth Meeks and Doctor Red Eye.
Dr. Red Eye.
Um,
So
but
yeah,
yeah,
that having those guys down there and the cooperation with them, and just being able to share that with someone who appreciates it. George was just so, like, he understood the
the
moment,
gravity,
the
yeah, the
gravity of that
gravity
moment.
of who Jimbo is.
Yeah,
And I'm thankful we've been able to share his story with people,
yeah,
because like, he's, we talk about it often, and it's on our webpage. Some of the greatest stories are the untold stories, and Jimbo really feels like an untold story,
mm,
just a treasure trove of stories, and just an iconic voice, and so if you haven't listened to the episode 100, man, do yourself a favor and go enjoy Jimbo Metter. Man,
yeah,
what a fantastic episode. Great season. Finished off with um, Josh Spielmaker, and I was thinking about other things that were impactful. I was thinking about the way Josh talked about, how do you use something like a boat
mm,
for God, and that conversation about like, how does this impact the way that I share this boat for God and with people, and
mm,
and the work that they're doing with that school. And I just really enjoyed hearing from Josh, not only as a creator and a fly fisherman, but just as a man. I felt like a better person for having talked to Spielmaker.
yeah,
Land Bridge, as they call him.
yeah,
He's got just an epic mustache,
yeah. And I think I want one of those hats,
right?
man.
Like who makes hats? This
I
guy
mean,
makes these awesome hats.
and that's just, I mean, so many people are so talented,
They
and
are.
they're
They
they're
are.
but not just, they don't just do their job. It's like, okay, they do their job and this and this and this, and that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
It's neat to get to know creative people like that. Like Brian Rowley is one of those guys.
Yeah.
He's
Oh,
one of those
absolutely.
just phenomenal creative type guys, and I really want to get him on the show next season or so.
Speaking of creative people, Brian, you're creative. You've been working on something for like a year.
I have uh this is a project that I was working on with Andy Blanks,
Oh, pal Andy.
old pal Andy. He's been on the show a couple times,
Yeah.
um, and he's a friend of mine. I've known him for since I was in high school, and he is a publisher and founder, president, CEO of Iron Hill Press. And
Yeah.
man, he approached me about a year ago about wanting to write a book together. Well, not write a book together. He would publish it, and I would be the writer. And he wanted this to be my first uh, book, full-fledged book, published through them, that would be written by me, just by myself. And so I wrote a 31-day devotional on the 7 I am statements of Jesus that are found in the book of John. So if those of you who may not be familiar with this, in the book of John, Jesus says, "I am the," then you fill in the blank. He says that phrase 7 different times.
Yeah.
Some of those are very familiar. I am the light of the world. I am the bread of life. I am the way, the truth, and the life. And so what I did was I took a deep dive into each of those 7 statements in a devotional form, and we have 31 days. Some of those statements have more days connected with them because 7 doesn't really go into 31 evenly. So
I'm not the best at math, but that doesn't
yeah,
seem to work out great.
no, yeah, it's not a clean fixed number, and that was interesting because we had thought about doing 5 per statement, and then we start thinking about doing, okay, well, should we do a 40 day or should we do a 35 day or how should we do this? And we kind of landed on this 31-day thing. And
Yeah.
it's crazy the stuff that goes into the thought process of behind the scenes things of writing a book. And me and Andy being able to work on this thing and go back and forth and say, I think this will actually work better, this will work better. um
Super.
so actually this book is coming out on the day that this episode is airing. And
Oh, okay. I
so
didn't know that. That's
it
news to
is
me. That's
open.
awesome.
Yeah, it's ready to go today. It's available on ironhillpress.com. It's also going to be available on Amazon. I think that it's a great opportunity for you to grow in your faith. It's a great opportunity for you to learn more about some of these things that Jesus said about himself. When we talk about being a Christian, we talk about learning about Jesus. What better way to learn from what he said about himself?
Mm,
And one
mm,
of the things I really enjoyed doing with this book was I looked at, okay, he said these things, but if you take them as face value, they don't make a whole lot of sense, really. So you have to kind of look in the Old Testament, look back, and it's that whole thing that we, look back to be able to move forward. That
yeah.
whole idea of, okay, well, he said this, he says, I'm the good shepherd. Well, that means that along the way, there were some bad shepherds. And,
Mm,
we see that in the Old Testament where there were some rulers and leaders that were looking out for their own interest. And Jesus kind of says, okay, look, I'm the good side of this thing. You can trust me.
that's good.
So yeah, it's
Man, I can't wait to see it.
dude, it was fun, man. And I love the way it turned out, the look of it, the feel of it, the little embellishments that are on the inside of it, all of that, man. It turned out really well. And it's something that Andy and I are really proud of. Um, it's been funny. Rick Burgess from the Rick and Bubba show, he's a friend of ours and he's been
Well, you had
promoting.
you had teamed up with him before. That's one of the first things I remember seeing. With Andy and those guys, you had teamed up and written with Rick, right, for a project
Yeah.
before.
So the first How to Be a Man book, Andy and Rick wrote. The second one comes along. Rick was going to write that one, but he ended up having a conflict there. That was a really busy time of his life. And so he stepped down. And I was eating lunch with Andy one day and I said, hey, is this something you still want to do? He's like, yeah, I really think it's got some legs to it. I was like, well, why don't I do it? So that's how Andy and I wrote the second How to Be a Man book. Rick did the forward to that
Forward.
one.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then,
yeah, yeah.
it's just been part of this.
That's awesome.
He started a thing called manchurch.com,
Yep.
a curriculum that men can go through in their churches. But this is a book through Iron Hill Press that is an opportunity for as a resource for those churches, for those men. But he's been promoting it on the show, and I've been getting text messages like crazy. It's like, hey, is Rick Burgess talking about you on the show? I'm like,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, because I hadn't told anybody yet. This is kind of the first really big announcement of
Cool.
coming from me, coming from our
Very cool.
podcast. So that's kind of where we are.
Super exciting, man.
Man, I cannot wait to see what's going to happen with this. It's going to be fun. It's a beautiful book. They did a great job. The designers did. Just thankful to be a part of it and have this opportunity.
How was that? I mean, obviously, that's you're writing theologically in Bible study, creatively. Like, was it a challenge to bring in creativity into like storytelling and devotional, and bring in some of those things that you love into a devotional like that?
Yeah, man, that's always the trick, right? I mean, you don't want to just start with a story and then try to make the Bible fit into that story, right?
Yeah,
So
I think I heard Vody Bacham call that Bible back me up itis.
oh
I got
yeah,
the thing I want to talk about,
yeah, that's
and
a
I'm
good
gonna
way to
find the
say it.
scripture to back me up.
Yeah. So what we do is we start with the scripture and then, after a lot of prayer and meditation on that, then those stories kind of start to emerge. And then you
Yeah.
start to see, let me figure out a way to write creatively about this thing and
Mm,
and not let the story drive the devotional, but let the devotional be driven by that scripture. And
by
so
the
yeah,
text.
yeah, that text. And that's just like in your world with ministry, whether you're writing a song or writing a sermon. I mean, those are you start with the text and
Yeah.
those stories come out after that.
That's
So
good, man. I can't wait to see it. Can't wait to read it, man. That's
yeah, I can't
very
wait to share
exciting.
it with you.
Proud of you, man, for
Thanks, buddy.
digging in. And what is what did old Charles Martin say? He's like, man, they don't write themselves.
No.
You got to
Yeah.
sit in. You got to put your butt in the seat, and do the work. And so, man, great job doing the work and staring at that cursor blinking at you, man, and starting to type, man. That's awesome.
Wow. Thank you so much. And thanks for letting me talk about it a little bit on the show.
Absolutely.
And if you guys who are listening, it's not just a men's devotional, it's for men and women. That was one thing that I wanted to make sure that we promote it to our channels that, are honestly, it's predominantly men. There's about 75% of our listeners are men, but also this is not just exclusively for men, so that you can, if you have a spouse or if you're a female listening to the story, we'd love, I think it would be for you as well.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
It's always scary to put art out there, Bryan.
Yeah, man. That's one of the things that that can really slow you down. And um I always go back to what S.D. Smith said about, we don't put it out because it's pride.
Yeah.
And if God's giving you something to put out into the world, and if we don't do it, then we're being prideful and saying, that we know better. And saying that God knows, we know better than God, is a dangerous place to be in.
Dangerous place to be. Yeah, man. For years I traveled and played music. In fact, that's how we met, traveling and playing music and writing music. And I sort of lost that desire to do that. But through this podcast, that's been something that's sort of rekindled, in me, that, creatives, we tell these stories and we talk about, the podcast. And so, pulled a bunch of quotes from the podcast and a bunch of things that we've talked about, and ended up entering back into those creative waters, if you will, as a metaphor that ties right into the song, a song that I just recently finished. And a good pal of mine, Matt Henson, and I sat down and we recorded a song that's literally a play off of the podcast, the whole thing. Even the intro music to the podcast is the intro to the song. And it grew legs from there, man.
Man, and I have been sitting on this news over a year, Brad, and just knowing that this thing was out there, I have been wanting to shout this from the radio world, the podcast world. This is, I absolutely love this song. The thing that you've done, you've created a song that really embodies what we're trying to do on this whole thing, this whole endeavor. And it's in a 5-minute song that you wrote the music, you wrote the lyrics. And it's good. Like, it's not just some jingle that you throw together. I mean, you put words to, basically, we started with the intro and then you put words to this thing. And holy cow, man. I every time I listen to it, I'm just grinning from ear to ear. I mean, it's phenomenal.
I shared it with you guys back when we, a lot of you guys have seen our YouTube video, and I shared it up there with you and Hugh. And I think for a second, I don't know if Hugh knew what was happening, but I had written the song. Like, the look on his face was pretty funny.
What did he say? He's like,
that's
my song.
That's my story.
That's my story.
Yeah, man, it was so good. So we're going to share it on this episode. So without further ado, I don't have a fancy release yet. Like, you got yours already all tuned up and ready to release and people to buy. So,
but we're going to hear it right now, right?
We're going to hear it right now. This will be a sneak peek for those that listen to the podcast, and then we'll take a little time and have an official release on the old streaming platforms. But you get to hear it right now on the podcast. When I wade in the river, all my worries wash away. Just for a moment, my soul is at peace. Oh, that river keeps rolling. It don't pay no mind to me. It situates me into a grand story where I'm not unimportant, but I'm not. Oh, I'm not the point. With a rod in my hand, lying in the air, let it fall, all feathers and hair. I'm in the line, looking back to move ahead. Yes, I'm in the line, waiting on a ride. When I wade in the river, all my thoughts become just for a moment. My mind is at ease. Oh, that river keeps rolling. It don't pay no mind to me. But it helps me remember, no matter how bad it gets, no matter how long it lasts, this too shall pass. With a rod in my hand, line in the air, let it fall, all feathers and hair. I'm in the line, looking back to move ahead. Oh, I'm in the line, waiting on a ride. Oh, this time I thought it was fish I was looking for. Every time I go, oh, I find so much more than I was looking for. With a rod in my hand, line in the air, let it fall, made of feathers and hair. I'm in the line, looking back to move ahead. Yes, I'm in the line, looking back to move ahead. Oh, I'm in the line, waiting on a ride.
Man, I hope that you all enjoyed that song. so as much as I did. Brad, can we talk a little bit about the process of this? Like some of the, I mean,
Sure.
just walk us through. I mean, because well, at the beginning of this podcast, I guess back in 2020, you wrote the jingle or the intro music.
Yeah.
It's not a jingle; it's an intro music. I don't even know. It's what did you call it? Is it slow drift or something like that? Or
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
slow drift. Yeah, that's what the little title for it was. Just a play off of things that that we do when we fly fish. And so I was like, I got to come up with a little title for it. So it's just a slow drift. It's like you want to get a good drift on a fly, and
Mm,
just wanted to kind of musically capture kind of this feeling that you have, whenever you're out on the river and this kind of acoustic, just meddling around with my acoustic guitar and stumbled onto a little melody that I really liked, and recorded it and sent you a bunch of different ones. And as we decided, and we landed on the slow drift. It kind of just sets the tone and sets the feel for our conversations, on these episodes. And I
it
was like, man,
puts
I
me
really
in the
love it.
mood, man. It puts me in the mood to listen to a story. It's not going to be we're not going to be yelling a lot on this podcast. It's not going to be like super high octane on this podcast. But man, that slow drift just puts you. It's like you're sitting
Yeah,
by the river talk or sitting at a campfire telling
that's right.
stories.
Yeah, so super relaxing and laid back, and I was like, man, I really like that. And so I would just, I would pick on the back porch or what have you from time to time. And then I started thinking about things people had said, on this podcast, and how fishing makes them feel. And I thought about how I felt, when we entered the water in times, especially, stressful times or sad times, and then the healing that we've experienced through being in the river, or for me, down here out on the skiff, out in the marsh, out in the water. It is such a wonderful place to be, and so just wanted to, stretch that muscle again, and knock some rust and some dust off of that creative muscle, and kind of had lost a love for or a desire to write songs. I think I had gotten caught up in trying to write songs to make a living,
Mm,
and not just write songs to write songs and
mm.
be fun and just be creative and tell a story. And so this is the first time in a long time where I've written a song. I was like, I just want to write a song that captures how I feel whenever we do this. And so that it came together. And a good friend of mine named Matt Henson. He played drums for me for a little while here at our church where I work. And he once, told me a couple of years ago, hey man, if you ever want to record something, man, let me know. I'd love to work with you. And I'd finished this song up and felt like maybe I should record this song. And
Yeah.
I asked him, he's like, absolutely. He didn't even stutter. And so we set up a time, went over to his house, and we sat down and recorded, a rough of everything. And then I recorded my acoustic guitar and my vocals. And then he started the work of production as a producer and the drummer. And it was really fun, man. We talked about, all right, what kind of feel do we want? And I was like, man, I don't want like a really a really, what do you call it? Like a studio crisp and really clean. I want it to be sort of live like. And
Hmm.
so it feels like you're on a front porch, and everything feels pretty acoustic, but it is full band. And he called in some favors, had a guy play upright bass on it. Had a friend of his play pedal steel on it. So it's got a little bit of a country feel to it with the pedal steel, but country folk kind of a feel as we're telling stories and talking about being on the river.
Man, that slide guitar is nice.
Oh man, it was so cool. I never had one on any of the things that we had done, and man, when that thing came in, I was like, oh man, I like that. I like that. So man, it turned out, great. Matt did a phenomenal job, mixing and putting it together. And it was really fun to see something go from, a podcast intro to a full band song, and see it grow legs. Not unlike you seeing a book come together,
Yep.
and a cover, and chapter titles and a layout, and
Yep.
all that stuff come together. You see all of those similar things in instrumentation. There's a little bit of an organ, kind of a Hammond B3 organ, underlying in there. And little percussion things that he did and reverb and all these different effects, and see just kind of see it all come together like paint strokes on a canvas to make to paint a picture with audio, if you will.
Oh man,
Mm.
and so much work goes into that to make
Yeah.
that 5 minutes, and the production level and the quality that you guys put into that. It's top notch, man. And I applaud you guys.
Yeah, Matt did a great job, and I'm thankful to do it, man. It was a lot of fun. We got a couple more. I'll go ahead and say that I've got a couple more, that I might do. So may grow into it a little bit of an EP, but for now, this will
You
be.
got a couple in the fly box.
I got a couple in the fly box. That's right. That's good. I like that.
So
I
tell
like
me a
that.
little bit. You mentioned that some of the quotes from the podcast. Can you talk a little bit about some of those came from?
Yeah, I think one in particular, a big standout quote comes from Whitmer, James Whitmer, early
Hmm.
on. One of the early
One
episodes.
early episodes. Yeah.
And James, talked about when I'm in the outdoors, I'm situated into a grander story where I'm not unimportant,
Hmm.
right? But I'm not the point.
Mm. Gosh,
And I
that's
was like, what
say
a
that again slower. I mean, that's
yeah. When I'm in the outdoors, it situates me into a grander story where I'm not unimportant, but I'm not the point,
mm,
right? It's like we're important. It's like you're not unimportant, you're not important, but you're not the point either.
hmm.
And I need that. I mean, we've quoted it a couple of different times. I think it's Piper who said, "No one walks away from the Grand Canyon thinking more of himself."
Mm,
And so, part of the glory and the beauty of the outdoors is like, oh yeah, I'm not the center of all this.
yeah.
There's a beautiful little vignette in the book we've talked about. We talked about on Jimbo's episode, the old man and the boy,
Hmm.
and the little boy has he's kind of gotten kind of prideful. He's kind of acted up and not taking anything serious and not taking church serious. And the old man kind of hears about him, kind of acting up at church and not taking things really serious, being kind of disrespectful. And he's like, man, I've got to get this boy back online. And the boy, finds out that granddad's heard about the old man's heard about my not acting right, and here comes another sermon,
Hmm.
and or here comes a lecture or what have you, because the old man's real philosophical. And he's like, no, what are you gonna do? He's like, I'm gonna take you fishing.
Hmm.
He's like, well, I don't sound too bad. And so he takes him. They live. That book was situated up on the East Coast, and well, I like Mobile, a lot of marsh and salt water,
Hmm.
but you also got fresh water. And so he takes some bass fishing, breaks out a couple of fly. It sounds like fly rods. The way he didn't call them a fly rod, but he describes them, and they sound like fly rods that he didn't know the old man had,
Hmm.
and they're using poppers. And they go catch a bunch of brim and a bunch of bass, and they go late in the evening. And he tells him, we're going to fish. We're not going to talk. And I want you to look around and I want you to take everything in. I want you to think about everything you hear. I want you to think about everything you see. I want you to really see it. I want you to really look at it. And we're going to fish, and that's it. And that's what they did.
Hmm.
And they went and they fished, and they caught some brim and they caught some bass, and they didn't talk. Started getting dark. And he started hearing all the sounds. He started feeling real small.
Mm.
And they get their Piro, back to their house and back to their truck, which was called the Liz. He named his truck the Liz. I don't know why. Never really explains that. I don't think. He's like, "What did you learn? What'd you get?" He said, "I got some humility."
Mm.
I was like, "Isn't that what the outdoors does to us when we look around and we realize we're not the point?" So
Mm.
that's probably chief among them of the the things that have come from the podcast. And things like Hugh, Hugh, it is part of Hugh's story because I thought
Hmm.
about him a bunch when I wrote the song of like,
Yeah.
this too shall pass.
Yeah.
This pain and this sorrow is not going to last forever. As he continues his journey, but this too shall pass. It's hard, but it's not going to last forever. And so there is that idea of, as you know, you've quoted early on in the podcast, the great Hercules quote of no man, um, you know, enters a river, you know, and comes out the same. He's not the same man, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's not the same river.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the idea, is when I stand in the river, you know, there is this idea of, like, I'm reminded of, no matter how hard it gets or how bad it gets, this too shall pass, because the river just keeps on flowing,
Mm.
and it doesn't pay any mind to me. It just pays no attention to me. And this ancient thing just keeps on moving. And so it's littered with, you know, those kinds of ideas. And there's nothing like a rod in our hand, right?
Mm.
Um, you know, and I just think about the melody. Made me feel like I always have a melody in my head whenever I'm fly casting,
Mm.
because it is musical. You know,
Right.
there is a meter to it, and there is and so yeah, so that song is kind of bringing all those ideas into a song, and a thing that we've said over and over. It's not always about fishing. That
Mm.
you know, I always thought it was about fishing.
Yeah.
And we quote, who was that? I can't remember who it was now that I'm trying to remember the name of the quote, that many men go fishing all their lives without knowing it's not fish they were after.
Mm-hmm. Was that
Uh,
Thoreau?
Thoreau, Henry David Thoreau, you know, and we quote that in the, you know, in the video
Mm-hmm.
on YouTube. And that's sort of the bridge of the song, is all this time, you know, I thought it was fish, but every time I go, you know, there's so much more. I get so much more than fish.
Man.
And so, man, it was fun to see all of those kind of big themes from our conversations
Yeah.
come together in a tune. And man, I hope people are, you know, I hope people enjoy it.
Yeah. I love I love that bridge, because there's a one point in the song I think that you go, you know, you've got a phenomenal voice, and I think that you kind of go a little bit higher, or you kind of put a little bit more into it on that bridge at one point. And I'm glad that your buddy
Yeah,
talked you into keeping that. Tell me a little bit about how that worked out.
yeah, yeah. You do. You know, you don't just sing through it one time. You know, you take a bunch of different takes, and you know, you can pick and choose the best takes from, you know, from your passes. You make a bunch of different passes, and the guy that's, you know, doing the recording can, you know, manipulate the software, and you know, and take the best parts of each take, you know.
Mm.
And as we were wrapping up, and I said, hey, let me take one more pass at it, and I'll just take some, you know, just some chances, some gambles. It may be terrible, you know, it may be just awful, you know. I was like, but I just want to, you know, I want to
One
leave it,
more
you know,
cast.
one more cast. That's exactly correct. One more time. And so I took some chances, and stretched myself, you know, vocally, and but you know, it's art, so you're putting yourself out there, and it's kind
Yeah.
of scary. But you know, he loved it. And I was like, "Are you sure?" I was like, "I don't know, man. Maybe it feels kind of out of place." He's like, "No, man, it's perfect."
Well,
So
I'm glad he taught you into it.
every now and then I'll go up a little bit, and you go, that big old, that red beard feller there. That I wasn't expecting that out of
What?
him.
Didn't know he could go there.
So every now and then, so it was a lot of fun, man. It was so
Well,
much fun, and you know, the more I listen to it, the more you know, like you said, it makes you smile, makes me smile, and I
can,
really am proud of it.
you should be, man. And waiting on a rise, and
Yeah,
you know, I can't, in my mind, I think of was it Hank Patterson.
yeah,
It's that my head, my mind is going. This fly fishing video has already happened. It's a slow motion
I'm
back
slow,
cast
but
through a waterfall.
that's right. You know, it felt like that, man. So it's so much fun,
Maybe
and
we'll have a video of it sometime.
maybe that'd be awesome.
That'd be pretty fun to put on
That
the
would
YouTube page.
that
Speaking of
would be.
YouTube, one last thing really is maybe we had this guy reach out to us, and
I don't even know if he listens to the podcast, Brian.
I don't even know if he knows that there's a podcast out there, but he found our video, the film, and his name is Chris Trunco, and this guy is a craftsman. I mean, he
Master
make
craftsman.
master craftsman.
Yeah.
He makes these single piece. Well,
It's
not
like
yeah,
six. Yeah, no,
it's a single piece,
yeah,
6 foot
yep,
rod, and it's
bamboo.
bamboo, and he's got a whole website that talks about. I think I don't forget. Then I'm butchering. We'll put it in the show
One,
notes.
yeah, one rod.
One rod, yeah. And
It's incredible.
holy cow, he just sent me an email. He said, "Hey, I want
And I don't know
Brad to."
how he found you, but it's like it was on your author page too, wasn't it? It wasn't even
Yeah,
on the
he
Storied
found
Outdoors
yeah
website.
he found me through my author website and sends me an email to my author email account. And I'm like, man, I never heard of this guy. How did he find it? I didn't, it's kind of, he talks about how cool it was. He's from Ohio and loved the video, loved the film, loved what we are doing. And lo and behold, Brad sends him an
Well, you send it
address.
to me. You're like, you know this guy?
Yeah.
Because he's one, can I have your address? I want to send you something. And I'm like, well, either he's going to kill me or or he's going to send me something cool.
And
So I
so,
was like, I guess, sure, I'll send it. I don't have like a P.O. box or anything. And
yeah,
so I'll send it to him. So I answered him because he wrote both of us on your author email.
yeah, right. And so Brad, he calls me like 2 or 3 times in a row, and like
Yeah,
I find,
FaceTime you.
yeah, you FaceTime me. I was like, well, I better answer this
This
thing.
must be serious.
This must be serious. Last time he did it, he got a boat, so I bought a, I bought to answer this.
Pick it up.
Picking up the phone. And so Brad, he does the unveiling of this rod that Chris had sent him, and it is
It's
amazing. It's
it's like a
beautiful,
work of art.
handmade. I mean, he shows you the whole process on his website, and he just sent this thing because of that video, and I send him my address, and he sends me a vise that like a fly tying vise. I mean, this guy's just seems
So
like solid
kind.
gold and kind, and just because of the being able to resonate with what our friends at In Color did on the film, and
Keep getting comments. I mean, I looked at
yeah,
it the other today, and it's like 16,000, almost 17,000 views.
which that's mind-boggling to
Insane.
me.
It's insane. I mean, my hometown had 7,000 people in it,
Well,
so I always
yeah,
just
mine
kind of
had 13,000. So
measure it by that. Good old Monroeville. That was before Vanity Fair left, by the way. Anyway, so it dropped down to like 3,000 after that. But anyway, I digress. Um, 50, 60 comments, people from all over, people from England,
yeah,
clearly people from Ohio.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and
It's super encouraging.
I think people resonate at different
Mhm.
levels with it. A lot of people kind of locked into the fishing for more. Some people locked into the spiritual aspect of it. Some
Yeah,
people just locked into, holy cow, this is a beautiful
it's
film.
beautiful. It is. It
And so,
really is.
it felt like it hit a lot of people on a lot of different levels. It may not be for everybody, but doggone, it's something that we're proud of and we're thankful.
Absolutely.
If you haven't listened to it or watched it, go check it out. It's on our YouTube page. Really proud of it. Those guys at In Color did a great job. I mean, just
Incredible.
could not have asked for a better result than what they
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. Super cool. But man, what a great season again. I'm looking forward to the spring season, and it's already starting to gain some legs. And just when we think like, oh, man, who are we going to get? Who are we going to get for this upcoming season? And man, things
Yep.
start happening, and contacts are made, and
Yep.
man, I think there's some cool people coming up and some cool stories to tell for the spring season.
Yeah, and we've already got a couple in the hopper that I'm just super excited about. But I got one more thing I haven't even shared with you yet. This is a little bit breaking news as we speak. Um, Sarah is on her way to go get another puppy.
Another puppy.
We're getting another puppy, another chocolate lab
Oh my
from
goodness.
none other than Milla Chapel and Real Happy Dogs.
Nice.
It's a rescue lab that was just abandoned. Someone picked it up on the side of the road. It's a year and a
Oh,
half. It is a beautiful chocolate lab and just the sweetest little disposition.
let's go.
Sarah has named her Betty because
Betty.
undoubtedly that is a Taylor Swift song,
Of course, of
and
course.
Sarah's a big Swiftie. So
Big Swifty.
so yeah, that's
Betty. Oh, Betty. I can't
old
wait to
Betty.
meet Betty.
I'll be posting pictures. Don't you worry. Her and
Oh,
Willow are gonna have a big time.
Gonna be some zoomies happening.
Oh my goodness. I don't think our house is big enough for two chocolate labs getting the zoomies.
Yeah, yeah. We're speaking of puppies. I don't know if I've actually shared. Maybe I've shared it on the podcast or not. But this past summer we got a second dog, a puppy. He was 8 weeks old when we got him. Moose is a GSP,
Moose.
German short hair pointer and bird dog. And you probably, if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen some pictures of him and some videos of him pointing and stuff. But he's something special. He's a character. He's you talk about zoomies. The other day he got the zoomies in our house, and he's a pretty good sized dog. And we have a sectional couch that he not along the top of the couch, but on the back of it, like a NASCAR on turn 3 coming in Talladega. Like he was up on the back of the couch and went all the way around it, like he was flying.
He was on the bank.
He was banking. He was up on the bank. It was incredible and terrifying. He's fixing to break a lamp or something. But and then the other day, I'm sitting in the recliner section of the thing, and he just appears on the top of the back of the couch from the behind me. He flat-footed. He just jumps over the couch.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious.
Yeah,
What was it that Miller said? We don't deserve dogs.
we don't, man. He's
we're-
he's been amazing, and man, I'm looking forward to hoping to quail hunt with him. Man, he's doing really well, and he's understanding his commands really well, and we're hopefully starting some gun training with him and getting him used to really hearing a gun. And but man,
Wow.
he'll point, and
He's beautiful.
He'll hold his point forever. It's amazing, just to see him at work, and
And that's
see
all
him.
instinct. I mean,
Yeah, but he'll hold it now. I've got him. The part that I've added to it is he'll hold it until I tell him to break point.
oh wow, that's huge. That's
That way
great.
you can set up behind him, whenever it's time to flush a bird, and he'll hold it until I tell him,
Wow.
and and then he'll fetch until he drops. But
Mm.
he's a working dog. It's really cool, man, just to see God's creation like that and see those dogs. He just loves to work,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm excited about. For me, that's reconnecting with a family, an old family thing. My mom's dad, his name was Jess Johnson. He was a barber in Monroeville,
Hmm.
and he raised bird dogs and quail, and he hunted quail and pheasants. And he passed away when I was really young, so I never got to do any of that. And I've always sort of lamented not having had those experiences as a kid. But I thought, man, I want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm gonna watch some YouTube videos and try to figure it out. And so we've been trying with Moose, man. So he's gonna be our first attempt at a hunting dog and a bird dog. And so maybe we'll be writing about some adventures with Moose and some quail hunting. Me and you, Brian, we can go on some hunts or something.
Well, that would be an adventure. I'd love to carry my camera, get some of that on some of that footage, and just
He's
watch a
beautiful.
dog. It's beautiful to watch a dog work.
It really is. I can't wait to meet Betty.
Betty, yeah, she's going to be something else. We're happy to do it. It's our first rescue dog, and man, just couldn't think of a better person to get one from than Milla, and Real Happy
Yeah.
Farm. That she changed it from Real Happy Dogs to Real Happy Farm, and so
No
on
doubt. That's an
Instagram,
appropriate change, buddy.
yeah, they've got a lot more than dogs on that farm.
Yeah, they do. That's
Well, Brad,
awesome.
we're the end of this season, and we got this. We always do our Christmas stories. For those of you who are new to the podcast, we've got a few Christmas stories that I wrote and Brad has read, and
Yeah,
just kind of get us in the Christmas spirit when we're traveling. And we're going to repost those in the next couple of weeks. Start getting people geared up for Christmas, and it's a wonderful time to be listening to the podcast. Get some fun
absolutely.
some fun family time. These are kind of those old sit around the radio, listening to the stories, a little fiction side of things. And Brad, you read them so well, and you add your voices, and you add your even some even a fiddle in one of them, and some a beautiful intro that you kind of customize. So I think it's a great opportunity for families to kind of listen to something wholesome around the radio together.
Lots of fun, man. We recently we had quite a Thanksgiving, Brian. I went down to we went up to Auburn to visit my brother for Thanksgiving, and I always
Hmm.
take him a bunch of seafood because they never get fresh seafood. So a couple of days before we head to Auburn, I go down to Bayou Battery and I go get a pile of shrimp and a bunch of oysters. Caught a bunch of blue crabs, and a good friend of mine that lives on Dog River let me use his crab traps, and so we took a pile of seafood up to Auburn and feasted on seafood for Thanksgiving rather than turkey. So
Mm.
it's our third year doing that. It was really cool. But Paige's little sister had her baby Thanksgiving morning.
Oh my gosh.
So Paige was over in Tuscaloosa where her little sister lives, and for the baby. And then that evening, it was quite the swing of emotions. Her grandmother passed away.
Oh my gosh.
She was 96 years old.
Wow.
And they asked me to do her graveside, and Miss Pat was awesome. 96 years old,
Hmm.
old saint. She loved the Lord, walked with the Lord. Her favorite verse of scripture, Brian, was Psalm 100. I enter his courts with thanksgiving. I enter his courts with praise. And she
Wow.
died. She died. She passed away basically like the late night, early morning, late night of Thanksgiving, early morning the next day.
Wow.
And I said, if there's ever been an easy funeral, this is an easy funeral for a 96-year-old saint whose favorite verse was, I enter his courts with thanksgiving, and she passes away on
On
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. Wow.
And but we talked about Miss Pat, 96, so she lived in a time when there was no TV,
Mm-hmm.
and their TV was the radio. And it
Mm.
made me that conversation brought that up, Brian, as I thought about these Christmas episodes. They harken back to that
Yep.
um, that idea of sitting around the radio and hearing a story versus like what we do is we watch them now, which is fine. I mean, I watched Home Alone today on my day. I took a day off today and I watched Home Alone. It's awesome, but it's cool to sit and listen to stories, and so yeah, we're gonna repost those, and that's a
Yeah.
long way to get there, but that was our experience, and so part of this is sharing our stories, and that was
Man.
a great experience, man. I'm thankful for those opportunities. Sometimes funerals are extremely difficult,
Yeah.
but that one, man, praise the
Bittersweet.
Lord.
Yeah.
Bittersweet, man.
Yeah.
Miss Pat,
Man.
and
Brad, I'm so thankful that we're doing our 100. Well, this is going to be our 102nd episode
yeah,
together. And
crazy, man.
man, just
Crazy talk.
wouldn't want to be on this journey with anybody but you, man.
I
Thankful
know,
for your
man.
friendship. Thankful for going letting us do this thing together. And this is a lot of fun. Very happy about Waiting on a Rise. That's going to be coming out. Hopefully, people can be able to get that on their phones. And if you're interested in
Add it to
buying,
the old Spotify playlist.
yeah, if you're interested in devotional, Jesus is, it'd be a good time to get one for Christmas. That will be available on Amazon and on the Man Church. I'm sorry, not the Man Church, the Iron Hill Press website.
Yeah.
And we'll have
Well,
those
we'll
in our
have
show notes.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll have links to all that and on the website as well. If you haven't done this before, go to the website, thestoriedoutdoors.com. Each of these episodes has the show notes, but
Hmm.
also usually accompanied by a gallery of photos from our stories, our essays, which I enjoyed. We didn't talk about those at all, but I enjoyed
Yep.
our essays this season were great, and so those essays are accompanied by a lot of visuals and all of our experiences. Some of these in person. There's lots of great photos from those experiences and links and all kinds of other stuff for more information and just being more connected to the podcast. So go to and visit thestoriedoutdoors.com for that. Shoot us a message. Join the email list. If you're not a subscriber on YouTube, you can see these podcasts and all our past episodes. You can see those on YouTube as well as the film that we referenced in this episode called "Fly Fishing for Something Bigger Than Fish," which was kind of the spawning of and the first time I shared the song. So it'll make a lot of sense if you go watch that film and then listen to the song. It'll all come together for you.
Yep.
But lots of good stuff, and I'm blown away by all the people that listen to this podcast, Bryan. Couple of stories from this year. Somebody shared it with a friend of theirs in like Columbus, and they're like, "Oh man, I already listened to that. I was blown away by it." I was like, "I have no idea who that person is." I mean,
that's wild.
We've broken way outside of the mom and them who listen to our podcast. And man, I'm thankful for all our listeners and people that take time to leave, that have left us comments or sent us emails. If you haven't reviewed, man, that is a huge, huge help to us. If you leave a review, you can leave a rating on Spotify, but if you're an iTunes listener, which I think a lot of our listeners are iTunes listeners, you can leave a written review, and those written reviews really take it next level as far as this podcast being found in searches or popping up as recommendations on iTunes. So those written reviews are a huge blessing to us. So all of you that have left those, thank you so much for taking time to do that. And I'm really thankful too for this our sponsor this season that we've worked with, our good friends over at Redbeard's Outfitters, Garrett and the crew at Redbeard's Outfitters here in Mobile. But they also have a website, redbeardsoutfitter.com. You can use TSO as a code, TSO, for 20% off online and in store. And they carry some really, really cool things, all things backpacking and outdoors. Man, just anything to kind of outfit you for your adventures in the outdoors. They carry some great stuff. They're great local folks. And I love supporting like small businesses like that. And I'm thankful for their partnership and giving us that code and that discount. So, man, if you're looking for a unique Christmas gift or something for that person in your life that loves the outdoors, man, it would be a blessing to them and a blessing to us. Swing by redbeardsoutfitter.com, use code TSO for 20% discount. Man, it'd be awesome. So thanks to everyone who's listening. And we've been inspired to write. I've been inspired to write. I hope you're inspired by these stories. To write your stories, share your adventures in the place we love to call the storied outdoors.